All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Stardew Valley Tools Aren't Real Edition. Berkeley is wearing the tan coat. I am wearing the... I don't even know what to call that.
What are you wearing? Do you have a fanny pack on?
I think I do. The inspiration for my character was Andy Samberg from the SNL Space Olympics music video. So it's
Wow.
something like that. Imagine that.
The
But
inspiration for mine was just me, because I have an orange shirt like that I wear sometimes.
well, I'm glad that you're keeping things realistic. I'm practicing escapism.
Ooh, our void chicken has hatched. I think we were gonna go with evil Abed, right?
Yes, that is right. We gotta see what it looks like. Whoa! Look at this little
It looks
guy.
so creepy when they're young.
He
They
looks
look a
like an
little more normal when they're
angry
older.
potato with feet.
I've had people say that about me, actually.
That's rough. All right. Well, let's see. How do I name him? Do I have to click on him?
I already
Oh,
named
you did
him.
it. You did it already. Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah. When I walked in, it said, "There's a new chicken. It looks strange," and then made me name him before I could do anything. All right, well, welcome everyone. This is Stardew Valley Tools Aren't Real. We're beating Stardew Valley without using any tools. It is winter time. We've been at a bit of a plateau in terms of donating community center items, but that doesn't mean we're not progressing. We recently got our first pig. We just got our first void chicken just seconds ago. You remember.
You was there
And
too.
we're making some money so we can upgrade our house and do other money things. And mostly just waiting for spring so we can get working on some crops again. Do you have anything to add? Did I cover it?
Yeah, you covered it. I mean, I was just imagining in my head, like, wouldn't that be nice if you didn't have to do anything during the winter because you couldn't, because you're a farmer, and so you just do nothing for like 3 months while it's snowy? That's probably not how it really works, but that's
No,
my
that's exactly how
headcanon.
it works. Industrialization was a mistake. Let's go back. You heard it here first.
So, this was not a planned topic for tonight's stream, but when I took my AP European History course with Miss Etchert back in the day, they talked a little bit about like some of the weird kind of festival stuff they had where it was basically like the purge but real
What?
life kind of. That's a bad explanation. So if you're a historian and you know more than me, I'm sorry for what I've just done to your beautiful study. But yeah, there's like all like the strict rules of medieval life were set aside for, I don't know, I want to say it was like a week or 2 weeks maybe if I'm remembering correctly, and everybody just got super drunk and did whatever they wanted, and like that was a thing for them.
Are you referring to Friday evening?
You know, I think it was more than just a Friday evening, but for us today, that's all we get, I guess. But it's kind of interesting. It makes me wonder how, because the perception of medieval times is that it was super religiously conservative, if that makes sense. Like extremely that way, and that probably holds true for a lot of places, but I guess the question is like how many places? If we went back, could we preserve a more tolerant society? I don't know.
That is a good question. I think there's a lot of dimensions to tolerance, like being able to handle someone that is a different religion than you versus someone that like is the same religion as you but not as strict as you are,
Yeah,
versus someone that has totally different habits or totally different language. I think there's a lot of dimensions, and on average, I think we've been getting better over
I
the last
agree.
500 years.
Yeah,
Good for us.
good
We're
job.
trying.
Good job, people.
Let's just keep it going. Okay, so it was a long weekend. Did you do anything fun with your long weekend?
I played a lot of Kenshi, which is a video game that I've kind of rediscovered my love for over the last few days.
Mm. Nice. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, it's like it's a survival RPG set in a post-apocalyptic world that's had war and climate problems, and I think some sort of radiation issues too, because you've got a lot of polluted environments. The climate's crazy. Almost none of the water is good to drink, and there's humans, but there's also humanoid like mutations and sentient robots from thousands of years ago who have been alive through the collapse of their civilization, and lots of weird mutated animals. It's it's very Mad Max almost. If you've ever seen Mad Max, it's like lots of crazy bandits and stuff put together out of scrap metal and that sort of thing. And there's not really a storyline that's well defined. There is lore, and there's stuff that you learn as you go throughout the game, and there are quests in a way, but none of it is explained to you as the player, and your main goal is to survive. So there's no difficulty scaling. You just get put down into this world of chaos, and you have to try to survive until you're strong enough to explore farther and farther out from where you start. So yeah, I've been training up my guy to fight cannibals, because there's a faction of human cannibals that have terrorized kind of the northwestern quarter of the map, and I felt like I could help improve people's lives by destroying the cannibals.
Nice. Well, that sounds intense. You like kind of gritty games
Yeah.
compared to Stardew Valley.
Yeah. Stardew Valley is tame, but it doesn't mean it's not good. Things don't have to be gritty or brutal for them to be quality. That's just where I have tended to hang out, because there's a lot of freedom in that game as well.
Nice. Yeah, you were telling me before the stream that it's like a lot of modern RPGs, they'll have a story for you to follow, but that one is it's like as open world as a game can get from what you were saying.
Yeah, there is lore, and you could put together the story of what's happening in the world, but none of that is actually explained to you. There's no narration, there's dialogue, but not very much of it is forced upon you. Like, there's people who will be talking in the background, and if you don't pause the game to read what they're saying, you might just miss it, and that's it. Like, it's very much no coddling the player, no explaining. So you might play through, and this did happen to me. So my first playthrough, I made this little character. I thought there was nothing to do in the game, and I got really bored, and I quit. I died. I got butchered. Not by cannibals. I got butchered by starving bandits, because
That's what we call loud quitting.
Yes.
Quiet quitting.
Yes.
Getting killed by cannibals.
I got butchered, and so I died, and there's no respawns in the game. If your character dies, they're dead. That's it. You could reload an old save if you really want to stick with that character, but once you're hurt, you can't come back from that typically, if you get hurt past a certain threshold. So I quit the game, and then I was reading on the wiki, because I was like, I want to get better at this. The fighting was pretty interesting, and there's, some cool stuff. I wonder if I could build like an empire farming plants. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say on Twitch what the terms of service are, but plants, special plants.
Okay. So you went from I got killed and there's nothing to do in this game to I wonder if I can become a farm tycoon.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, what if there is something in the game, but I just was too weak to experience it, like I never got strong enough to actually go and see it.
Mm.
And as I was reading the wiki, like I learned that there's actually a lot going on. I just wasn't paying attention in the way that you need to in this game, because it's very different from other games in terms of how it presents information and all that stuff. So yeah, it's very, very free. You know, every decision you make is basically framed around your opinion of what's going on in the world, and you're free to make that opinion. And there's a lot of complex morality in what you choose to do and why. And if you remember me talking about Red Rising, I said a similar thing about that book, The Complex Morality. I really enjoy that, and I think that's because that's how I see life. And so I find it fulfilling, I guess, to not only to live my life, but to play games that allow me to make decisions like that and think about things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, I'm trying to get all the stuff in the right chests before I run
Oh
out of
yeah.
time. Managed to get a couple cherry bombs today. Looks like we have tons and tons of geodes, so I
Yep.
might take those to the blacksmith tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, that sounds like a fun weekend of not dying and having training montage to kill cannibals. I'm gonna assume
Yeah,
not.
it was very much a training montage, like getting beaten up, training, you know, healing yourself, working out with weights, digging ore and running around with it in my backpack to make me stronger, you know, that kind of stuff.
Love it. Well, I had a fun experience this weekend as well. I got to go to a concert on Friday. I went and saw Jack Johnson here in Salt Lake, where I live.
I love Jack Johnson.
Yeah, it was great. I was a little nervous because so he had a really popular album In Between Dreams, and then he also did the Curious George soundtrack when that movie came out
Yeah.
in like 2010-ish, I want to say. So those were the only two albums that I really knew well, and he's
Oh,
been
yeah.
writing music this whole time.
Sleep Through the Static. I think that's the album name. It's really, really good.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Okay. Oh.
Um,
Yeah,
but the concert was still really
got,
fun.
He's got great albums. Yeah. I'm glad you went and you liked more of what you heard. That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't realize what a talented musician he is. Like, obviously I loved his songs, but they seemed pretty chill and low key. But after the normal concert was over, like when a band would usually do an encore, he just got up and took requests for like any song by any person
Wow.
and just kind of like figured it out by ear live and was
That's
really successful with
impressive.
that. Yeah, so that was cool. But the coolest part of the show was actually the opener.
Oh yeah.
So I went with my sister, and the opener was great. Neither of us knew the band that was playing, but they were doing a lot of Bob Marley covers, and they were doing a great job. So we loved it, but we were like, why is this band doing so many Bob Marley covers? That's not a normal thing to do. And so we looked it up, and it was the front man of the band was Ziggy Marley, Bob Marley's son.
Oh. Well, that would explain it.
Yeah. So that was awesome. I felt like I was witnessing history, getting to watch Bob Marley's son play Bob Marley songs. Also, Ziggy Marley was the one that wrote the theme song to the TV show Arthur.
I did not know
So
that.
that was fun. It was like nostalgia plus cool history.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a fun experience. And the music was so good. I think everyone has heard Bob Marley songs, but I feel like whenever that genre has been presented to me, it's been kind of like dismissed and made light of. But listening to the lyrics closely for the first time was cool. Like they were really strong, powerful, like political messages and religious messages. So I'm converted. I've been listening to Bob Marley ever since, and it's great. I'm trying to get my daughter hooked on it.
So it's interesting that you had an experience of Jack Johnson and Bob Marley music, because Jack Johnson was actually one of my introductions to Bob Marley in a different way.
Really?
So Jack Johnson had a song. I don't know if he put it out as a single or if it was on one of his albums. I've listened to all of his music, so my memory's a little fuzzy on where exactly it lies. But it's called Natural Mystic, and Jack Johnson's cover is very like gentle, but it's got kind of like a haunting quality to it, talking about kind of the uncertainty of the future and how we can kind of feel it. And that song is actually by Bob Marley, I believe, originally, Bob Marley and the Wailers. And Bob Marley's version, so I'd heard Jack Johnson's version first, and then I Googled it because I wanted to hear it again, and I didn't own the physical CD at the time. And Bob Marley's version came up, and it's so much better, and obviously very different. But yeah, Bob Marley's got an incredible gift, like you said, political messages and just really, really powerful songwriting. And I've heard that he's viewed as a semi-religious figure in some circles, and I kind of get that, because I don't know, something about him and the way he wrote music and his lyrics is just powerful on that level to me.
Yeah, absolutely, I get that.
So anyway, it's kind of funny that we both were introduced to Bob Marley through Jack Johnson. Yeah, it's fascinating. I wonder what it's like to be Ziggy Marley, because that's, it could either be really cool because he's like honoring this really culturally important heritage that he's been kind of given, like that's his mantle to take on. Or it could be like he's living in his dad's shadow, because everybody's going to say, oh, he played Bob Marley songs, but nobody's just say, oh, he played Ziggy Marley songs. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, let me address that. He did have really good original music as well. He's very talented as a songwriter in addition to being a good performer. So I think he definitely deserves the mantle, to use the words that you did. But I imagine that it would be kind of complicated as well to try to honor his dad's music while also not being limited by that.
Yeah, interesting. But that's cool. It's cool that he's got the talent and is doing his own stuff too.
Yeah. I forgot that I've got limited inventory space. Not enough to break open 31 geodes, but I only have 7 left, so that was pretty good.
Did we get any artifacts for the museum?
I think we did.
Excellent.
Let me go check. Oh, just one. I think it's the petrified slime. We'll see in a second. Yeah. I don't know if I should be impressed with myself or embarrassed that I recognized that on site.
I'm impressed. I think that's cool.
Have we gotten all of the winter foraging bundle already?
Snow yams. We need snow yams.
Oh, right. Which we cannot really get right now. So in case you missed it, we talked about this on the last couple streams, but snow yams, you need a hoe to collect them the normal way. We thought that we could use bombs to collect them from artifact spots, but that was not the case. So the next thing that we can try, we can get it from the traveling cart, which we forgot to check again yesterday. Oops. And the other way to do it is to get winter seeds. And we need a seed maker and I believe a winter root in order to get winter seeds.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long journey to try to finish the winter foraging without tools.
Yeah, that could end up being the last one we get.
I'm going to look up to see exactly what you need to get it from seed maker. Yeah, winter root. So we should keep an eye out if we collect any more winter roots. I think you can get those from the caves. So if we don't get any
Okay.
by the end of winter, it's not a huge deal.
Okay.
But and we don't have a seed maker yet anyway. But we'll keep an eye out for those. This is nice and peaceful. I love Stardew Valley in winter.
Yeah. It just have you ever been outside like at night on like a snowy mountainside or something like that where it's just you're away from the noise of the city and you're able to see the stars and it's just just very quiet because of all the snow.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I have. It's a good feeling.
it's yeah, I went camping a couple times on the edge of a ski resort and
Hmm.
Stardew Valley really brings back that nostalgia for me of that kind of snapshot in my brain of what that was like. It was I don't know why it made such a big impression on me, but it did.
It, so I remember for a couple years, I was really intrigued by the idea of being in a place where I couldn't hear anything at all.
Yeah.
Um, in hindsight, it's probably because I was suffering from anxiety and had sensory issues.
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't realize that at the time. I was just curious about what it would feel like to not hear anything. And when I finally did it, it was on a mountain in the snow. I realized that I could not hear anything at all. Um, and that, yeah, just magical, peaceful, quiet moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you tried to capture that since then? Or have you kind of moved past that? You feel like you don't really need that anymore to feel at peace?
I feel like that scratched the itch for me. Of like just the curiosity of if it was even possible to be somewhere where you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Um, Now I feel like I'm at a better place in life where I'm able to control my environment better. I mean, I work from home. I can go days at a time without leaving the house, and so I don't have as much overstimulation as I used to.
Yeah. So that live music is tough for me because of the crowds and everything going on and it's too loud. Like it sounds very old person, but it's difficult for me. I think the two of the only concerts that I've really enjoyed have been Death Cab for Cutie, where we were seated and so people, weren't like touching me.
Mm.
And Postal Service, where we were also seated and people weren't touching me. So,
Love Ben Gibbard, huh?
yep.
When did you see Postal Service?
Oh man. So it was the very end of senior year. It might have been the summer, and I think it was their 10-year like reunion tour, and it was the last show date.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. I wish that I had appreciated it more actually, but it was kind of funny because like usually when you have an opener, they kind of match like the main act in a way, like they're complementary. But
Yeah.
Postal Service's opener was a band named Big Frida, and I think it was a drag queen who like twerked to really loud hip hop and rapped over like the rap that was already on the track. So it was like very, very, very different from Postal Service, And so like when I showed up not knowing what to expect, and then I was like, oh, this is the opener. Wow.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
That's super funny.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean the audience was loving it. They were all dancing and everything. So, I guess they knew there must have been somebody in their marketing team that knew that it would work. But I was completely caught off guard at that point.
Yeah, I would be too. That's so funny. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever seen a opening act and main performance that had any amount of noticeable contrast, let alone that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, when we saw Death Cab, Youth Lagoon opened for Death Cab, and that was my first introduction to Youth Lagoon, but it worked really, really well. It was great.
Hmm. I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, well, I think at that time in my life, that was the kind of music I wanted to write, was what Youth Lagoon was making at that time. Their first, if you're interested in Youth Lagoon, their first album is really, really good. The second album gets a lot more abstract. And the person who's writing that music, Trevor Powers, they might go by a different name actually now, I'm not sure. But yeah, they're really interested in like music as an abstract art form. And that's never been something that I really learned to appreciate, but they've released some really good music over the years under different group names.
Cool. Well, I think we have plenty of money to upgrade our house. Do you mind if I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. That will probably involve buying some wood.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just keep fishing to save for bomb purchases too.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I started playing Stardew Valley on my own time again. For a while, I was just playing when we streamed,
Yeah.
and I'm loving it. So when I play by myself, I usually play on my phone. Um, I love mobile games for having something quick to do while I'm laying in bed, not tired yet, or laying in bed early in the morning, not wanting to get out of bed yet.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly those two. Um, and Stardew Valley is just my favorite game to play on my phone. Um, anyway, so I've been in a new world, and it's been a lot of fun, but I made a very silly mistake. Um, so I really wanted to marry Leah in the save that I'm doing,
Yeah.
and like that was my whole reason for starting a new save. And so I knew that she loved truffles, and so I was investing all my time and money into getting a barn and upgrading it so that I could get pigs, so I could get truffles, so that I could give them to Leah and marry her as fast as possible.
Yeah.
I finally did that. It takes like 50,000 gold to be able to get to your first pig,
Wow.
which is a huge investment because you have to upgrade your barn twice, plus buying the pig is a lot. So, yeah, it went to a ton of effort to get pigs. As soon as I had bought my first pig, I thought to myself, I should look on the wiki and see what other gifts Leah loves. And one of the other things that she loves is, for one, there's goat cheese, which is just exactly as hard as pigs to get, but a little bit easier. Well, 25,000 gold easier because you don't have
Wow.
to upgrade your barn the second time.
Yeah.
So that was dumb. I should have done goat cheese instead. But the one that was cheaper than that was salad, which you can just buy from Gus, and which I use as my main food source in that safe. I had 5 in my inventory at the time. I could have been doing that the whole game.
Nice. Nice move.
Yeah. So that was my fail. I told my wife about it, and she was not very sympathetic.
Well,
And you know what? She didn't need to be, because that was silly of me.
it's also easy to it's easy to get very focused on like something that you know how to do, even if it's not the best way of doing it. There's a lot of optimization that can be done, and you do that, right? You do that, but sometimes when you know something works, sometimes it's tempting not to explore further just because you already know that it works. That's how I
Yeah,
live my life.
that is fair. That's the generous interpretation of what I did. Thank you. I just remember that Robin doesn't work on Tuesdays, so I will upgrade the house tomorrow.
I wonder.
Yeah, Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, does she maybe we could enroll in like community college and learn to build the house ourselves?
We do plenty of other construction. Maybe we can bribe the Junimos to do it for us.
Yeah. What do you think they'd like?
I can think of about 100 items that they like.
Oh no, that's fair, but I'm like, I don't know.
If you're gonna bribe them, it has to be something they really want.
What's the name of the guy who's in with Jojo Mart? Is it Morrison?
I think it might just be Morris.
Morris? Okay. Maybe Morris's head on a platter would be enough.
Oh, that's. I, I don't. I wasn't expecting that sentence to go anywhere, but the place that it went is not where I was expecting. Would you like that? Would that be good for you?
Would that
Do
be
you like
good
your
enough?
business competitor's head on a platter?
Junimos. Are the Junimos in competition with?
Kind of. He wants to buy them out. He doesn't know they exist, but like if you go his route for finishing the game, the community center gets turned into a JoJo warehouse,
Yeah.
which is in conflict with the Junimo's interests. So
Hmm.
I think you could call them competitors.
Wait, so in theory, we could be beating the game without tools in a much different way.
Yeah, if we wanted to beat the game without ever using energy, that would be how we would have to do it. I'm
Yeah.
serious. If you wanted to just like forage for the whole game and that would be it, um, that would be the way to do it.
So, what happens in the? Is this spoilers? Is it bad to ask on stream what happens if you go with Morris's plan?
Um, I don't think that's a spoiler since no one should do that.
Since it's
Um,
morally wrong.
yeah. I from what I've read, I've never done it myself, but instead of completing bundles by donating items, you're buying the upgrades. So you get all the same intermediate rewards like the bus working and the greenhouse and the intermediate rewards like that. You get all the same ones, you're just purchasing them instead of donating items in exchange for them.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember if it's when you start on that path or when you finish that path, but yeah, the community center gets replaced with a JoJo warehouse.
Interesting.
I don't know if there's like a climactic final scene. Um, I I can't remember if this is only when you're doing the JoJo route or if this happens in the normal game, but at some point there's a letter in Pierre's kitchen where Morris is offering him a job for 5 gold a day
Oof.
to be like a cashier, which is
Yeah.
just real scummy, real
That's
scummy thing to do.
yeah. That's rough. You can make way more than that just fishing.
Yeah.
Man, that kind of makes you wonder, like, in real life, what do you think those businesses could actually afford to pay? Like, what is a real fair wage? You know? Because I think we've been used to living with. I mean, let me qualify that statement. I have lived a relatively affluent life, but there are a lot of people in America who really struggle to get, paycheck to paycheck, right? It's subsistence living, but in an apartment or, with a car. Like, you're still living paycheck to paycheck, but you have stuff because you have to have stuff to make the money to live, to pay for the stuff. So it's like it's this weird circle, but I would say that those people are kind of being fleeced, right? Their labor isn't being appropriately valued.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
So how, I don't know that I could throw a number out, but I'm just curious. And from an economic standpoint, I don't know how that would work, but it would be interesting to see, if people could make a living and maintain the standard of living that we have. Um,
Yeah, I saw on Reddit someone was doing the math for Lowe's and Home Depot, just looking at their profits from the first half of this year. If they had used those profits, or even like just 30% of those profits to give workers raises instead of using it all on stock buybacks
yeah.
and like bonuses for the executives. And I don't remember the number exactly, but it was something pretty significant, like $3 or $4 per hour raise for
Oh, wow.
all employees.
Yeah.
Um, and that was just using a large fraction, but just a fraction of the profits
Hmm.
from the first half of this year. Um, I imagine the numbers are similar for other companies of similar size, even in different industries. I'm guessing that as the company gets larger, that number increases,
Yeah.
which is pretty discouraging to me that companies could afford to do that, but they don't have any incentive to, and so they don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got kind of a counter incentive because of public trading, right? Profits
Mm.
are the number one like indicator of company health in a lot of people's view. I'm not an expert, so I'm sure there are people out there who don't look at profits, but I think that in terms of stock value, that's what people are really looking at a lot of the time is profitability, and so companies are incentivized to do anything they can to make that margin large, and so they're incentivized to to avoid paying people more unless they're at the top.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
And we see companies succeed doing it other ways. Like I believe Winco is owned by the employees, and so if you have a really good quarter with lots of profits, that money. I don't know the details of how it works, but like you can imagine systems where instead of going to stock buybacks, it goes to the people that worked to earn that money.
Yeah, so I worked for a privately traded company that did profit sharing, and
Hmm.
when I started working there, and they were doing profit sharing the way they should be doing it, I was getting basically an extra paycheck every quarter, which that's not
Wow,
huge money, but for me
it's a
that
lot.
it added up to a few $1,000s a year in extra wages for me.
Yeah, and if you're someone that has to pay your own medical expenses, or if you're trying to save to send a kid to college or to send yourself to college, that really that's important. Those
Yeah,
those margins.
yeah. So the company at the time, I think it was 60 people, maybe 70 people in number,
Mm.
and you know we were making maybe 30 million a year gross. So I have no idea how that would scale for larger organizations. And it probably depends on what kind of profit margin you're looking at just in general. I know that like supermarkets have very low margin because there's a lot of waste in just the food industry in general. Um, but it was cool. It was cool. Yeah.
Have we talked about the concept of a not-for-profit corporation on this stream?
You know, we might have, but I feel like it's appropriate to just run over it again.
Um, I learned about it on a podcast. Oh, I'm forgetting the name. Oh, let me look up the name of the podcast because this is important. Um, but this the concept of a not-for-profit company is different than a non-profit company. Um, a not-for-profit, all the day-to-day business dealings are work the same way as a regular corporation. But the difference is that in the okay, sorry, the podcast is called Upstream. I highly recommend it. Um, it talks about how like the traditional things that you learn in your Econ 101 class kind of break down, and a lot of the assumptions don't really hold up and contribute to some of the problems that we see today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Upstream, highly recommend. Sorry, I'm really scatterbrained right now. So the idea behind a not-for-profit corporation is that when the company is founded, they pledge themselves to some charitable cause, and their profits go to that cause. Um, the closest example that I know of is Newman's Own, the salad dressing.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what specifically they donate to, but the profits do go to charity. Um, so that is helpful for two reasons, or three reasons. Um, First one is that the money is going to charity, so you've got a charitable cause just being directly benefited right off the bat. Second, the people that are running the company don't have as much of an incentive to get these super huge profit margins. And so instead of Like they don't have the same drive to keep wages low that a traditional corporation would have.
Yeah.
And so, in theory, and in the little bit of examples that we've seen in the real world, they tend to offer better wages than their competitors. And then, um, the final benefit is that they don't have the same need or incentive to grow and to scale up their operations, which, at least the host of this podcast, they were arguing that that can benefit the environment if you don't need to be Jeff Bezos, just like shipping stuff all over the world and sending rockets into space.
Yeah.
That's kind of an extreme example, but in general, when corporations have that drive to grow fast and sometimes clumsily, that can have negative impacts on the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And with a not-for-profit corporation, the incentive to do those like messy shortcuts is decreased. So, cool idea. I'm not an expert in it, but I listened to an expert talk about it for an hour, and I'm sold.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the big questions of our generation has been how much wealth is too much, right? Because should anybody need to be Jeff Bezos? Does anybody need to be Jeff Bezos? You know, I think it's getting harder and harder to justify living with that level of wealth. And, you know, that's always been around, though. Inequality is not new. But it's just really well publicized now.
Yeah, I'm not a historian, but it feels like the scale might be new. I'm not sure but
You know, I don't know either, because during the colonial period, like you know, when stuff really started kicking off in the late 1600s, you know, up until today, basically, there were people making extreme amounts of money and living extremely well relative to the time, and people living in absolute misery and dying by the thousands to support their lifestyle. So, you know, I wouldn't know how to quantify it, but from a dollar perspective, I think, yeah, it's probably more unequal than it's been since we started relying on paper money here in the States, like fiat dollars. I don't know. I guess it would be safe to say that it's been accelerating since the 70s. It's probably the most concrete statement I could make. Inequality has been accelerating since the 70s for all demographics. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to, you know, and yet, you know, I wouldn't mind having, you know, $10 million, enough that I could invest my money in a certificate of deposit and live off of the interest and not have to worry about medical bills or affording a house or paying for my children's education, you know? But
yeah, the difference between $10 million and $1 billion is about $1 billion.
yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything morally wrong with that level of money, but or practically wrong either. But yeah, we've definitely taken it to extremes.
So
remember when I was trying to make this stream not political?
we've given up. We've abandoned it. Speaking of kind of extremes, I watched a documentary. So you're familiar with the cartoon frog Pepe?
Uh-huh.
So, you know, he's kind of a meme, but he's also used for lots of things that aren't, I don't know if I would classify them as memes. Like you can use different Pepes to communicate different things like happiness, sadness, loneliness. You know, there's so many types of Pepes out there. And recently, the guy who created the Pepes, who created the character Pepe the Frog, has been doing these really cool like animated shorts that are almost anime in style, and I saw some on social media with some music overlaid on it, and just they're really powerful in a weird way. Like they're philosophy. They seem to address philosophy, spiritualism, all this cool stuff. And it's interesting to see them in that context because I don't know if you remember during Trump's election, 7 years ago during that election season, Pepe the Frog was actually pretty controversial at the time, because it had been hijacked by political extremists, and used as a symbol of hate in a way. And a lot of people aren't familiar with Pepe in that context because a lot of people don't run in those circles or really pay attention to that side of the, to the opposite end of the political spectrum for where they are, if that makes sense, but so during Trump's election, Pepe became like a symbol of the alt-right, and had been kind of co-opted by white supremacist groups and all this other stuff. And it ended up being put on a registry of hate speech symbols. And that was really shocking to the creator, because when the creator had made the character, he was just a frog who went to college and liked hanging out with his friends. Like, he wasn't really a symbol of anything other than just like kind of what it's like to be young and experiencing life. And so I watched this documentary. I think it was released this year. I'm not 100% sure if it was this year or last year, but it's called Feels Good Man. And that phrase comes from the kind of a famous scene with that character from the cartoon that character originally was in. And it kind of documents the journey of the creator of the character, creating the character, starting to realize that it had become popular and become a meme. People were using it all over the place to react to different things, and, had begun commercializing it, I guess, in a way to sell merch that communicated certain messages. And Feels Good Man or Feels Bad Man were very kind of common taglines that went with it. But the documentary is called Feels Good Man and just covers the whole gambit of it becoming popular, of the character Pepe overshadowing the artist's other work, because he's done lots of other work. And then, the artist watching it kind of descend and become co-opted by these extremist groups, and his efforts to fight back against that and kind of reclaim what Pepe is to him, and let it be kind of remove it from the extremist context that it had taken on during Trump's election. And it's really well done. It's a really well done documentary. Interesting thing that I didn't know is that Pepe became political again during the Hong Kong protests. Pepe became a symbol of democracy and freedom, and was used all over the place in Hong Kong as a way to protest, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I've always been a sucker for discussions about who gets to decide what something means. As a musician, all of my songs have a specific meaning to me, but I've also been a big proponent that the audience gets to decide what it means for each of them, and that what I feel about what my song means doesn't matter relative to the audience. They get to decide. But it's interesting to me that in the context of Pepe, what do you do when somebody decides that it means something, that's hateful or hurtful, or, all these other things that you never intended? that are the opposite maybe of what you intended. Who gets to make that choice, and how do you are you responsible as the artist? In the documentary, a lot of news networks and people kind of blamed him for it, but he wasn't involved in that at all, at least from the way that the documentary tells the story. So I guess, what do you think about that, Berkeley? Who gets to decide what art means?
Yeah, that's a super interesting question because I think we've talked about this on.
I think your audio cut out. Did we lose Berkeley? Is he gone? This is my show now. Berkeley Andrews has quit. Ha! Hopefully he comes back soon. I guess you guys get to hang out with me now. Just me. Hi there. So to expand on my own idea, I guess, since Berkeley's not here to answer the question, hate speech isn't protected speech, and we know that. So removing hate speech, and by we know that, I mean that's how the law works here in America. So by removing hate speech from protected speech, you're able to draw a line for who gets to interpret how art has meaning or what art means. You get to draw a line between people who will use it for extremism and to hurt other people, and people who are going to use it in other ways. For example, to create new intellectual property, or to continue a story, or there's all sorts of things that you can do with derivative works, but the ability to look at hate speech and go, yeah, hate speech isn't protected. From a legal standpoint, I think that really guides the discussion towards anybody can decide what art means, but if you're going to use it in a hateful way, you don't get to decide it without consequence. And you could argue, all actions have consequences, which is true, but you're not legally protected when you choose to make it hate speech. If you choose to find or to promote hate speech in art.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. That was all really well said. I almost hate to interrupt. Do you want to just make this a solo show from now on?
This is my show now. No, Berkeley, I need you.
Oh, this is so embarrassing. So, for some reason this morning, the outlet that I have most of my technology plugged into, for some reason, like my surge protector that I plug into it has been like not sitting right in the outlet, and so any little jostle has turned off a lot of my stuff,
Oh,
which was
yeah.
fine when I'm working during the day because I use my laptop, but I was using my PC to stream today, and so the outlet got jostled and my computer turned off. So that's rough.
Well, welcome
I'm on my
back.
other computer now.
You made
I
it.
probably won't be able to rejoin the game without corrupting my save files, so I'm gonna not join the game.
Okay.
But I will join the stream.
Good. That's what we really need.
So, yeah, I like what you're saying about hate speech and that kind of being a limit. I think that even if you take out the legal aspect that you alluded to, that still makes sense. Um, I think that when you have a creator and an audience, there's a certain amount of trust between the two of them. Um, and this whole idea that people can interpret things how they want, I think that's a good idea, but it depends on that trust relationship between the creator and the audience. And when an audience violates that trust and takes things beyond what is reasonable, to promote any message that the creator doesn't agree with, I think it's the creator's prerogative to try to reclaim that and steer the narrative again.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's really fascinating, I think, to think about that social contract, right? Because I think that that's one of the foundational concepts that created democracy, was the idea of a social contract. So applying that in other spaces, or in finer detail, is something that we don't really talk about enough, I think, as a society.
Yeah, yeah. Who was the French philosopher who was big into the social contract? He was the same guy that said, "I think, therefore I am."
I don't
I
know
want to say
why
Robespierre, but that's not it.
it's not Robespierre. The only one I'm thinking of right now is Descartes, and I
Yeah, Descartes.
and I don't know if that's right, but that's the
I
name
just
that came to
Googled
mind.
it, and that is right. Good job, your
Wow,
mind.
thanks.
Um, I believe he wrote a lot about the social contract and that the founding fathers of the United States were very influenced by him. And so I think that was an important idea that we've kind of lost sight of, that like as we talk about the rules and the incentives and the systems that we want to set up, there's kind of this underlying assumption that everyone is acting in good faith.
Hmm.
And once people stop doing that, then you have to kind of recalculate everything and decide what are acceptable rules and what are acceptable consequences for people that break the rules.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love talking about that, particularly because it's so poignant, I think, to today's society. But before we dive into that, Berkeley, I've reached level 10 in fishing, so I have to choose a profession. I can choose
Congratulations.
angler for 50% more money per fish sold, or I can choose pirate to make treasure finds twice as likely. I think treasure doesn't tend to be very valuable, but it has the potential to yield items that we don't encounter often that could be useful.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we've gotten most of the super useful ones. It is nice to just kind of have that like steady stream of stone and copper and things that you can get from the treasure chests.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think either one is valuable. I would probably go with angler, but either one's valuable. And the treasure chests, they're more exciting. So, yeah.
I'm going to go with angler because we know that we can convert that money into bombs, and that's going to be critical as we move forward with the farming portion of it. So, money. Money wins.
Okay. We can also upgrade our fishing poles and get the spinners that will increase treasure chests, if you also want that perk.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've upgraded my fishing pole at all. Yeah, I'm using the
Me
bamboo
neither.
pole still.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, we got maple syrup, and I think the mouse wants some. So I'm
Oh, that
gonna
is
do
actually
that.
the bear that wants some in
Oh,
the secret woods. Do you
oh,
want
do
me
I
to
have to
look
do the
up if
chair
there's something
thing?
specific? Yeah. Oh, I've got the chair in my inventory though.
No chair.
I'm really curious to see what happens when I restart my PC. Um,
Hopefully, only good things.
hopefully it preserved my inventory. That's the main thing.
So I'm taking care of the chickens for the first time. Wow, that void chicken grew so fast.
Oh yeah, we've already gotten an egg from it.
That's so impressive. Okay, I should put feed out too, right?
Um, oh, that's also in my inventory. Shoot. Well, let me see if I can restart my PC and get back in the game before the end of the day so I can feed the pets at least.
Okay.
He's so flattering.
What do pigs give you? Do they give you like pig milk or something weird?
Yuck.
This is not like.
Pigs forage for truffles. They
Oh
dig them
yeah,
up out of the ground.
I should have guessed that because you explained that earlier. Okay, what mayonnaises do we want? I have void mayonnaise, opportunity, and duck mayonnaise, and just plain old regular mayonnaise. Oh, that's not a duck egg. That's a jade. Jade mayonnaise. Mmm.
Mm. You should be able to get all of them. Like, just put in some eggs right now, and then later in the day, trade them out for other eggs.
Okay.
Yep. 2 mayo per day. I'm really frustrated by this outlet. I've never had problems with it until today, and now it's like so hard to get power to my surge protector.
So, if have you ever replaced an outlet before?
I have not.
Okay. It's not too bad. Just, go to your fuse box and turn off the power to the circuit, and then all you'll need is like a screwdriver and a new outlet, and I think that's like $2 to get a new outlet. So they're not too bad to replace. I've done the ones in my apartment. That's against my lease, so sue me, but I did it anyways because they were literally, the plugs were falling out when you walked by them.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks for the tip.
Oh, it's festival time.
Oh, man.
Who am I gonna give my thing to? Ooh, Maru, here's your secret gift. It's a copper bar.
Congratulations.
Is that the end? Oh, there's a cutscene. I get a gift from Clint. It better not be a tool, Clint. If this is a tool, I'll fight you right now.
With the tool.
Hi, so I'm your secret gift giver this year. Well, open it.
I'm really curious to see what happens when I
5
rejoin
Geo.
the game. 5 geodes.
Wow,
That's
thanks, Clint. Very cool. It's nothing fancy, but it's the best I could afford. I know that's not true. I
well,
pay
we're not
you.
giving him much business.
We pay him so
since-
much per geode, though.
Oh, that's fair.
I don't know. I guess he did beg us for a steel bar last episode, so maybe he's on hard times. Who am I to judge? Maybe he's got student debt or something.
Well, I think he makes most of his money upgrading tools, and we don't do that here.
Is there a point in talking to all these people?
You get friendship points with them, but we haven't really been doing that.
No, I don't need friends. What about the shop? Lots of holiday decorations. None of them seem particularly important, so you get nothing, and I'm going home.
Okay. Sounds good.
Oh wait, Linus. I do care about Linus.
He's a good friend.
Linus says he's joined, but he doesn't feel welcome. That's sad. You're welcome, Linus.
So on the stream, my video is just showing my Discord profile picture instead of my face, which is weird to me because I have rejoined the Discord call. But can't be helped, I guess. Okay, I'm back in the game. Do you want to go see if there's anything for us to donate to the community center? I don't think we
Sure.
got anything this time, but I think we had one from last time that we didn't donate.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Oh, I do have my inventory. That's nice. Because I had caught some cool fish and some emeralds.
Do you still have your hay?
Yeah,
Excellent.
I just fed the animals. For anyone curious about my Discord profile picture, that is Calico Jack from the show Our Flag Means Death. I've got long hair and a mustache like him, and so I changed my profile picture to him. It's a really clever, subtle joke.
When you say it like that, it only makes it more believable. Okay. Here's our little chest. We've got a cheese. Delicious. Let's see, that's probably on the bulletin board, I'd guess.
It should be in the animal bundle. Sorry, that's in the pantry. There's a artisan bundle in the pantry.
Okay. Are the Junimos like the Illuminati of this town?
No, not even a little bit.
Working in the shadows?
Can't believe you would say that. They're the Fae. They
Which Fae? The Fae from Patrick Rothfuss series, or the Fae from?
more like I picture them like the brownies. Did you ever read Fablehaven?
Oh yeah, man, that's a
That wasn't
throwback.
yeah, that wasn't where brownies were invented, but that is where I was introduced to them. They were just like cute teddy bears that were really good at construction and baking.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, brownies. Very cool.
And I am so excited to see if you make it to bed on time.
I probably won't.
Ah, you did it.
I did it. Woohoo! That's still a lot of money for a day where none of us really fished.
Yeah, that's got my earnings from yesterday since I
Okay. Yeah. That void mayonnaise. Not worth as much as normal mayonnaise.
really
Well, it
that
might be because it was Gold Star normal mayonnaise.
uh
All right.
well, it's still cool because it's evil.
I think that concludes our time for today, but man, this has been a fun episode. Lots of discussion of all sorts of different things, and we didn't even scratch half of what we wanted to talk about. So come
So
back
we got half
next
unless you had
week.
more.
What was that, Berkeley?
I think we got at least half.
At
unless
least
there's
half.
more you wanted to say.
There's always more going on in this little head of mine. Today, or not today, yesterday I was talking with my brother and I came up with a new cursed character, Scoob McDuck, a combination of Scooby-Doo and Scrooge McDuck.
Why?
That's the way my brain works.
Swimming in his pile of runny.
Yes. Oh man. All
Great.
right. Well,
Thanks everyone for joining. Please follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. The links are in our About section of our Twitch bio or the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube.
that's right. And there's going to be a giveaway coming up, so follow our Instagram for that. I think that's where it's going to be announced, and you could win a $15 Steam gift card and use it to buy Stardew Valley or something else that you like. Treat yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next week, until next time, this has been Stardew Valley Tools Aren't Real Edition. I've been Jared. He's been Berkeley. And we'll catch you on the flip side, guys.
Bye.
Bye.